Two roads diverged in the wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that made all the difference. Robert Frost ended one of his most famous poems in 1920 with those lines. Those lines were so powerful that when Scott Peck, a noted psychiatrist and psychotherapist, decided to write a book on spiritual and psychological growth, please pass that around, he used The Road Less Traveled as the title. And his point was that it's not always natural to pursue what's best for us if we're going to grow and develop psychologically and spiritually. But if we take the road less traveled, we have a much better chance of doing that. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, today I'm going to tell you 3 stories about myself when I took a road less traveled. One was in the 60s. I was on a path to be a surgeon. And to be a surgeon, after college, you have 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency. It's a long, straight, narrow, tiring path. And throw in some military service. Meanwhile, on a parallel course, I had a twin brother, I still do, who's a lawyer. And he and I would talk about the interface of doctor-lawyer issues, and actually gave some talks on some of these matters, like the Good Samaritan question. What should we do in that setting? We talked to professors. We got a lot of feedback about how we might be able to actually do something collaboratively. And at the University of Pennsylvania, where I was at the time as a surgical intern, the vice president for health affairs had been the former Surgeon General. We went into his office and said, we'd like to do something on this subject. What do you think? He said, sure, call these people at the NIH, at the Public Health Service, at the HEW office downtown Washington. We did, and we landed in the director's office of the National Institutes of Health, in the planning office, specifically to do medical legal collaboration. And the first thing they threw at us was, we're having trouble getting enough tissues and organs to do medical research and to do organ transplantation. This was 1967. The first heart transplant was done. We were lucky enough to be doing research in this area collaboratively when the first heart transplant was done, when a new model law was just being drafted, which we helped draft, that came out in 1968 and passed every state in 3 years. I was far away from being a surgeon. I liked doing what I did so much, we stayed on for a 3rd year. We went on to Yale and wrote books and started PA programs and did all kinds of other things that would not have happened if I'd stayed on my previous path. After I was here in practice for 10 years, I was beginning to get the itch to do something else. I was an internist, I was busy, I was successful. And I heard about an urgent care center opening up in North Salinas, in Hardin Ranch. And they offered me to be the director of it and to develop it. So I thought, I'll take that on, even though I need to learn pediatrics again. And we're going to be open every day of the year. And I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. But for the last 20 years, it's been a very satisfying place to practice. We've seen thousands of patients. And it just so happened that as we were teaching students, PAs and nurse practitioners, for example, one of them showed up, named Eddie Matsumoto, and she is now my wife. This would not have happened if I'd stayed an internist in Monterey. 6 years ago, as I was talking to a very good friend of mine about my reticence of public speaking, she said, you ought to go to the Naval Postgraduate School Toastmasters Club. So she brought me here 6 years ago, about today actually, and all of you were so welcoming and so good at speaking and organizing. I fell in love with Toastmasters 6 years ago. If you figure that there's 7 billion people in the world, now a little bit more, and almost all of them are scared to death of public speaking, and you realize that there are 250,000 Toastmasters worldwide, all of us have taken the road less traveled, haven't we? We've all shown the courage to come and face our fears. And for me, I've had the chance to grow in Toastmasters, to give speeches outside of Toastmasters, and to, in fact, accept opportunities to give speeches outside of Toastmasters, which I probably would have said, well, thank you, somebody else can do that, thank you very much. Now I say, sure, sign me up. I sometimes wonder, oh, I just said yes. But I've had a great success in trying my new skills outside of this area. The road less traveled, it's good for all of us. Mr. Toastmaster.
Good job. Thank you for the effervescence.